Welcome back to Radio Fever. This is Khaki Fever.
Hi, this is Sam. I'm Gio, and these are guitars. So, Sam, you're the guitarist in the band.
I'm indeed, yeah.
It's best to get your input. Why don't we start with what has the guitar's role been throughout history, up to current date? What has its role been, different roles?
I mean, it's varied a lot. There was a time where it used to replace the vocal in a lot of things. You know, the idea of lead guitar, big guitar solos, that kind of stuff. And there's lots of places where it essentially replaces the lead vocal. So you do your vocal bit, and every focus is on that, and then the vocal drops out, and then it's the lead guitar part for a while, and then it's back on the
Especially
vocal.
like 80s, your AC/DC, Guns N' Roses,
Yeah,
all that
exactly.
stuff.
Especially in the rock world,
Yeah.
like it's huge. But I mean, it's had lots of other roles as well. It's had a massive rhythmic element, especially in things like funk, soul, and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So it depends, and that means that you play it in a variety of different ways because it's such a varied instrument and it has like a variety of different roles.
Yeah, that's very true. What would you say throughout history then is the most influential, or maybe the guitar at its peak, would you say?
Depends what kind of thing you're going for, you know. There was a time when everyone wanted to be a guitarist, right? I mean, I think that's still the case. But I don't know, when you pick up the guitar for the first time to learn, what's the first kind of songs that come into your head? It's like anything with a riff, basically, isn't it? It's like, and rock central most.
The power stance.
The power
Look
stance.
at me.
Exactly.
Sort of thing,
like, you know, AC/DC, smoke on the Water.
It's always really been the front man without being the front man.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. The front man without having to sing.
Yeah. Which most guitarists can't, so.
Yeah.
But for you, what would you say is your favourite throughout history guitar? As in that, where it's been, what's its role been? Or maybe what has influenced you the most?
Black Keys.
Yeah.
In terms of, I don't know, just where it sits. Tone, certainly, like massively Black Keys. In terms of like playing style as well, I don't know, he just knows where to put it.
Yeah. He does.
What he does isn't particularly crazy, it's difficult.
Well, none of the best,
you know?
with a few exceptions, most of the best, it's not necessarily about how virtuoso or how complicated or how talented necessarily they are in many different areas, but the main thing is the taste, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
Musical
So the
taste.
song.
Well,
So
yeah,
the
musical
song has-
taste is trumps everything.
Yeah, of course.
Both with ears and performance, because you can't have one without the other. You can't have the ear for the music to be able to think of what is tasteful or not, and then only have the performance or only have that. There has to be a combination of both.
Yeah, yeah. You're not a musician until you master all aspects of it.
Yeah, definitely.
In any instrument. You've got to be on it.
So from that, where would you say the guitar is now, and how does that differ to what it was previous?
So I think the guitar doesn't really replace vocals as much anymore.
No.
Guitar solos are a thing of the past.
Definitely, you never. I mean, one for the format that we listen to music in. A lot of it's the whole radio sort of thing, and there just isn't time.
There isn't enough time for a big
and
guitar solo.
a lot of people save that for live anyway.
Yeah,
'Cause
exactly.
It's more of a live thing.
It's a showy thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sometimes it really does have the song, but a lot of it is the guitarist is like the god of the band. So, and that idea in itself is kind of diminished, I think.
Well, you're never going to get like a Pink Floyd "Shine On You Crazy Diamond" 6-minute intro of guitar before.
Yeah, it won't happen again.
So with that, I mean, I'd reference people like Anderson .Paak, Tom Misch.
Yeah, Corey
people
Wong.
People like that who are, excluding Anderson .Paak, his use of the guitar is amazing. But the two guitarists, Corey Wong and Tom Misch, who are songwriters as well,
Yeah.
they've managed to adapt that really well.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's cued a lot of things afterwards. I mean, Tom Misch before, but there's a lot of bands coming about now because of this, with this style of guitar.
Yeah, for sure.
So what would you say that is?
It's rhythmic based, certainly. Especially if you look at Corey Wong's kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll do like technique wise first. It's very rhythmic based. So if anyone knows Wolfpack, Corey Wong, it's all about those 16ths. It's all about that groove. It's from funk really. And and it becomes a percussive instrument almost.
Yeah,
it's used to drive songs forward rather than be at the forefront of the piece, being like, "Look at me."
Yeah, it's almost like they use it
difference.
for hats in some sense for the groove. That allow a lot of drummers in the past with funk. They use those 16s. I mean, Tower of Power sort of drummers like David Garibaldi, and how they use that for the groove is now actually made its way to the guitar.
Yeah,
and drummers
100%.
can now. I mean, if you notice now, because of that, drummers have a lot more based on groove, with much more bare bones than it is more showy, if you might say.
You got some help now.
So you'd say that is where it is now?
I think, it depends on what genre you go to.
Well,
There's always going to be everything and everywhere. But yeah, I definitely think that the mainstream guitarist is certainly taking a more rhythmic approach than a more lead approach nowadays compared to what it used to be. Technique-wise, for sure, and I think it's a lot more dynamic as well. Dynamic being in terms of like volume. I think it used to be, you'd play like a little thing, and then it'd get huge, and then you'd be like, yes. And now it's generally, it's a lot more compressed, so there's not as much.
Well, yeah.
Extremes either end, but again, it depends on the genre, it depends on the artist, but it's something that's either there or it's not now. And you can always kind of hear it, whereas before it was a lot of time used as like fillers and things like that as well.
Yeah.
In terms of tone, it's a lot cleaner now than it used to be, I think.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is because you can get a cleaner sound better now.
Yeah.
It used to be quite difficult. DI boxes didn't used to be that good.
Well, also there's not the loudness wars of having to crank things so much that it sounds good. Now it just sounds good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's gone. So
Yeah,
it allows a little bit more for the softer aspect, you might say. I mean,
Yeah, definitely.
The best description I heard of Wolfpack for a reference would be that someone said it's low volume but high funk.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, 100%.
And
it
you don't.
just sits in the back.
You could go to a very small gig for them, and it would be fine.
Yeah. 100%.
You don't need to crank it.
Nah, 100%.
And that's obviously that helps in a lot of ways for everyone involved, but for those smaller venues. But it also, like you said, helps with tone massively. For
And I think one of the because tone doesn't drive music taste. Taste drives the tone.
Yeah.
Right. So. I think the new digital era of music, which has now been going for 20 years, it's not really new anymore, but it's got better and better being able to get clean sounds and still a variety of clean sounds for that guitar. You don't if you're playing funk, if you're gonna put it through an amp, you're gonna want to keep that super clean. And a lot of funk guitarists and this kind of rhythmic guitar, you want to keep that as clean as possible. And the easiest way to do that is to just plug it into, DI box or plug it into the computer or put it in straight through the pre. Don't put it through an amp because that will dirty up the sound a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think people's taste in music now is a lot more digital based than it was,
Previous
25 years ago.
It facilitates it now, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Everyone has their home studio set up. Everyone's got.
Well, this is the other thing.
Yeah.
It's, for a new guitarist or a new artist,
bedroom guitarists on a new level compared to what. I mean, when we were growing up, bedroom guitarists were literally lads in the bedroom playing guitar.
Yeah, literally.
But now, you can become famous. Overnight if you're so lucky.
Yeah, Jacob Collier.
You can be very can quickly blow up because you have the facilities to. You don't always need to be in a nice studio.
Either, it's not too expensive.
No, it's not. No, you can achieve a good level to get yourself out there. Especially, like I said, with everything being digital these days, you run into a lot less problems than you would
100%. Yeah,
normally.
And it's just things are just easier to use as well.
So with that, we talked about everything where it is in a general sense. Where could you see it going? Can you see it going anywhere interesting? I mean, or where would you like to see it go as well?
Well, one of the things I didn't actually touch on, which I think is going to get bigger, is guitars being not guitars. So, your guitar being a synth or something.
Yeah, I mean,
running it through thousands and thousands of effects and pedals and stuff to get a new sound.
I mean, look at what Royal Blood did with the bass.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I would not be surprised if that carried on going. That's already huge.
Yeah.
But that's just going to get more.
I feel like that has definitely been experimented with in the past, but it's always been like a bit of a, I don't want to say gimmick because it can be quite tasteful.
Yeah.
But it's always
been
like,
could do it better.
Yeah. But it's always been like, oh, cool, look what he's doing with the guitar.
Yeah.
But now the level is so high that it's not going to be necessarily like, not for look at what I'm doing with the guitar, just look at how this sounds.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's got to the point now, you can get MIDI keyboards as a guitar, right? But, you don't even need to anymore. You can just plug it through a load of pedals.
Yeah.
With a real guitar, plug it through a load of pedals, and you've got your sound. Which, I always think like MIDI guitars, they're great, but it doesn't feel like a guitar. Same as a drummer, like it doesn't feel like an acoustic kit if you play an electric kit. It's not the same thing. So if you can play just a normal guitar and get a crazy sound out of it, that's the sky's the limit. Right?
Yeah. So how do you see that fitting into the mainstream? Does it fit in the mainstream, or where do you see that going?
Like synth pop.
Well, massive at the moment.
Is obviously huge. And there's going to be... And at the moment, I feel like the guitars in that, they're using... It's synth pop, right? So they're using synths. So the synths are playing the synth role, and the guitars are playing the guitar role, and then as we were talking about earlier, that role being a rhythmic element, usually.
Yeah.
Whereas I can probably see the guitars edging into the synth domain, having the guitar parts, doing all kinds of crazy stuff, from... sweeps and EQ filters and all kinds of stuff like that. So I think, but I don't think they're going to become center of attention.
I feel like there's still space for it. There's still space. I mean, there's a couple of bands that, like Blossoms, for example, and synth pop, who still, Josh Dewar still does a few shredding lines. He still gets around the neck. And it is still part of it. But like you said before, it's all about the taste for it. So it's not part of the formula, you might say, anymore.
No, I don't think it's part of the formula.
It's just an added nuance when it might suit it.
Yeah, definitely.
So, with all this that we just spoke about in mind, let's go back to you starting. I mean, your background in music, guitars, bass, singing, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Let's go back to that. So, when you first started guitar, what was, you alluded to before Black Keys, I know,
Black Keys. Huge.
What was your biggest? What would you say is the biggest influence? And how did you start and your journey through playing the guitar?
I started quite late as compared to most musicians. I was like 15, maybe 14, 15 when I started playing guitar properly. And I started off with the songs I could play. Well, let's find some open chords and let's learn them. Oh, sick! I can play every pop song now. And then you get on that train for a while.
I'm a guitarist.
Sick,
done. 5 minutes.
And then you start listening to guys properly, and you realise there's way more to it. So yeah, Black Keys are huge.
What sort of bands did that influence you? Did you start playing in bands like Black Keys, the blues rock sort of stuff?
What was the first band I played in? Yeah, it was blues rock all the way up to the end of uni, really.
Yeah.
Played a lot of blues rock kind of stuff. And I got I played with a few other really good guitarists who could help that out as well. In terms of like inspiration from other artists, Tash Sultana is another huge one. Especially, we were talking about earlier, like the things that guitars can do now. Like, the range of tones she can get out of just one guitar is just mad.
Yeah, no, it is.
It's crazy. And just the playing as well. There's just so much taste to it.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So where do you see after that? You did your blues rock. You messed around with tones. You played in quite a few different bands. Paisley Days, and you're doing stuff like that more. That side of stuff, and then coming into this band Khaki Fever and doing stuff. Has your approach to playing had to change? Has it had to manipulate in different ways? Look at playing in maybe a different aspect, like we talked about the roles before, all
definitely.
that sort of stuff.
it was mostly blues rock I was playing in before I moved to London, which was a few years ago. And that was generally lead guitar mostly, so I was doing the solos and things like that. And that was great. But then we moved to kind of the stuff we're doing, and then and we're kind of a perfect example of exactly what we've been talking about. The role of the guitar isn't to do guitar solos in our music, it's to sit back and be the more rhythmic element. So having to learn that has been a bitch, not gonna lie, but it's been fantastic. You learn so much, and then you realise how much you haven't learned, and then you realise you got to learn some more, and then you learn so much again, and that's
it's been good to watch as well. I mean, it's like we said, we've got such a different spectrum of styles that we do, and for example, I got this feeling like you might say it's still got a bit of an aggressive guitar in there. It's not necessarily a riff. It's more to chug the song along.
You mean the verse?
Yeah. We still use the chords to pad with the synths and stuff, so that's all good. But what would you say has been the biggest challenge for you with that?
Definitely the funkier side of things. I didn't really touch it much before I left uni, and there's so many jokes about guitarists not being able to play in time because they can just pick up a guitar, learn a few chords, and crack on. Yeah. But I was like, that's not me. And then you try and play some funk, you're like, shit, I can't play in time.
It is not.
And that's step one. Yeah. The step 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 10 is playing it in time, but playing it in time well, putting the accents in the right place.
I think it's
all of that kind of stuff.
I think a lot of people can maybe get confused with, in guitar in general, with the right hand being the important bit. A lot of focus. When I speak to a lot of guitarists. From their journey, it's always been like moving from that right hand focus to the left hand and understanding. I know it's the same with solos, so you would have experienced that before, but it's such a different.
There's a different dynamic.
Yeah,
funk compared to. We'll compare there's obviously loads of different styles, so we'll just compare rock solo-y guitar style lead to funk rhythmic guitar style. Your right hand is doing the dynamic parts in solo-y rock stuff. You're doing those screeches, and your right hand is what you're obviously using to depend on how loud your note is essentially. So that's where all the energy comes from. Whereas in funk, that right hand is just keeping that beat going. Yeah. That's just doing those 16ths
and everything, all that dynamics that you'd had previously
is moving to my left hand now. Because you're pretty much hitting every 16th with your right hand. Yeah. Once you've got that, what is it? Corey Wong describes it as a motor. Once you've got that motor going, it doesn't stop. Yeah, right? Yeah. You just leave it going. Yeah. You change the accents. This is the hard bit of funk, is you change the accents depending on what 16th you're playing. Yeah. But that doesn't stop. It doesn't stop moving. So the nuance comes in the left hand. When am I playing the note? When am I not playing the note? Yep. What chord am I playing? That's thing one. And it's a lot more. You've got to get your hand in the right place to make sure all the strings are muted on your left hand. Yeah. Because you can't mute with your right hand like you can in rock. In rock or lead guitar rock, you can quite easily mute the bassiest strings with the edge of your hand if you're playing the top strings. If you wanted to do that, you can't do that in funk because your hand's moving all the time. So you got to do it with your left hand. And there's a number of techniques. You can get your thumb round there, or you can bar across, whatever boats you float. But that's definitely a challenge as well. Definitely a challenge.
Do you feel like now that you've had these challenges with it, are you happy with where you're at, or do you feel like you want to go further on?
Always pushing on.
Yeah.
Always pushing on. 100%. Yeah. Always pushing on. No one's. If you're happy as a musician, you're not doing it right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I love it.
You can quote that one. If you're not happy as a musician, you're not doing it right. That's definitely true.
We love it. It's great. But what was the question?
Are you happy with?
Am I happy with where I am at? I'm moving forward. Yeah. No, I think
doesn't necessarily mean. I don't necessarily mean with you playing. Like you said, you always want to improve. But I mean, where you're, because you've had the different roles and stuff. Do you enjoy this role?
No. Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think it's awesome. I think it's moving with the times, which everyone's got to do, and you've got to keep up to date with what's going on. And B, it's Not only does it make you a better guitarist, it makes you a better musician. You know, I would say most guitarists who aren't professionals don't understand rhythm as well as a lot of other musicians do.
Well, you know,
drummers and bassists are the obvious
yeah.
ones, but you know, even other guys, especially if you're only doing lead guitar.
I mean, brass players have to. If you don't have a good rhythm with brass, you're not a brass player. Because you can maybe give away a bum note, but you know, brass players in pop are always hitting those tight stabs, and
exactly.
you can't get away with that.
Yeah, no, 100%. So I mean, if anything, the work we've done in the last few months on the funkier stuff has just expanded and honed in that click.
Yeah,
you know, that internal click.
I've been in your room quite a few times, shouting at you with the click.
You're rushing.
Yeah.
I know I'm rushing.
But yeah, I mean, it is a good experience. I think most guitarists could do his work on. I mean, everyone can.
I mean, everyone can. Everyone can.
I mean, it's. I always compare it to. Maybe not as an extreme, but drummers, for example, when they pick up a kit, you start playing. They rarely focus on tone.
Yeah, I was literally thinking that as you were saying it.
They rarely focus.
It's a two-way street, you know.
So they rarely focus on tone, and they're like, "Why does this just not sound good in a recording?" And you're like, "Well, because you didn't tune it."
Yeah,
Like they tune it like, "Oh, just turn this that way, turn that way, whatever," and you can kind of get away with it. And with guitars, you can't.
No, of course.
But then that's when sometimes they might get a bit lax on the rhythm side. So that's how I'd compare it. I think
definitely.
There's
well, I mean,
aspects.
every instrument has their own skill set. That's like the core foundations of their instrument.
Well, the role, like I know it comes back to there's many roles, but for drums especially, the only and main role is. Are people dancing?
Yeah.
If they're not, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're not going to get booked again if you're a session musician. Yeah. You're not going to play in the band anymore if you're an artist. You just can't do that job without making people dance. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't necessarily mean hitting the click hard all the time. There's a lot of free stuff that you can do within that, but I'd say that if you can't do the click, you're going to struggle doing the free stuff well.
Oh, yeah,
because
it's the foundation of you can't read a book without understanding what the words mean.
Yeah, essentially.
That's the foundation of all music. Is I mean, what is music anyway? It's just time and frequency. That's it.
Yeah. We were talking about it the other day, weren't we? How depressing is that? Yeah. Our whole life depends on time and frequencies.
Yeah, that's it.
Time, I could fuck off. And frequencies, they're just annoying.
Yeah, I know.
They're really annoying. Spend half our lives sat listening to frequencies and being like, that's wrong.
Yeah, literally.
But well, thanks for your input, Sam. I mean, it's been really interesting to see the journeys through guitars and yourself at the same time, and I hope everyone's enjoyed listening. So thank you very much.
And check out our single.
Yeah, it's coming out March 19th. And if it's after March 19th when you watch this, it came out on March 19th. So what have you been doing for the past X amount of days? But thank you very much. That's been Sam, I've been Gio, and these have been Guitars.
Nice one.